Well, it is our pleasure monthly to have with us the folks from Cheyenne's First Education Federal Credit Union, Jim Yates, President, and Ann Lucas, Vice President, both with us in studio this morning. Folks, good morning. Good to have you back.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to see you brave it in through the Arctic weather.
It's cold.
You feel like building an igloo. And
Yes.
maybe that'll be the next thing with the global warming is we'll all have to build igloos. Well, one of the things we've had a lot of discussion about via callers when you've been with us before, we're going to talk about this morning, and it's been in the news recently, and that is investment in gold and what that really means, and why is that or is that not a good idea?
And that all depends on your investment goals. Just like any investment, gold can be a hedge against some negative impacts. But generally, the better the U.S. economy does, the lower the price of gold. Mm-hmm. It's kind of reverse because most gold is priced to the U.S. dollar. So the better the U.S. economy, the less increase in the price of gold.
Now, over the last 5 or 6 years, we've seen gold reach all-time highs.
Oh, yeah.
Right. The end of last year, it was over $1,600 an ounce.
Mm-hmm.
So, but now it's down about 25%.
Yeah, I think just looking here at a number 12 yesterday, $1,214.60 in New York on the COMEX yesterday.
Right, and at the end of 2000, it was $272.
So somebody, a smart investor who foresaw that the economy might not fare too well in the future, probably made some pretty good money.
I'm sure there were a few that did.
On the other hand, there are some people who didn't fare so well, too. That's
The folks
the
who
problem
bought
with
gold at the end of last year.
Right, because they speculated it would keep going up. And, some of the ads on the radio and television, even we heard, gold is just going to continue to go higher, higher, higher. And it didn't because the economy
is improving, and gold is a very emotional market as well. And
I love it. I do.
Yeah, and I mean, I think gold would probably be treasured even if it was more abundant, because it is, a unique metal. Mm-hmm. It doesn't corrode. It doesn't react very much with other chemicals. So, I mean, it's one of those miracle minerals, I guess. And
it's been of value and used as currency in this world almost since the beginning.
There's no real record of when gold first became valuable. The first gold coins, 600 BC probably, I think is what I read last night. Mm-hmm. Most of the industrialized world stopped using gold as a currency around World War I, or in the United States, it was in the 30s.
Yeah, I just had Ernie Goss on with us from Creighton University, and he said that today is the 100th anniversary of the Federal Reserve. And, of course, that's when we started seeing the silver certificate replaced by the Federal Reserve note.
Yep.
And silver often following gold, too. When gold goes up, so does silver, although not as much.
No, not as much. Silver's more abundant, although in history, silver was much more popular for coins than gold was. For one thing, it stands up better.
And I think the other thing is it's not as heavy, is it?
No, I don't think so.
No, gold is heavier than silver.
Heavier.
That's what I mean.
By far. Yeah, you're
silver
exactly right.
Silver is more popular because it's not as heavy, is what I was trying to say. Now, the other thing that a lot of folks, when they hear the whole gold futures are up or the price of gold is up, I think they think, well, my neighbor invests in gold. He must keep it in the basement. Most of that really is just a paper number. Most people don't physically hold the mineral itself, do they?
No, there are people that do buy the gold coins, the American Eagle, the Krugerrand, the Canadian Maple Leaf, and there are a few others, but those are mainly collectors, really. Right. But most of it's a certificate, and it's gold that's held somewhere. A lot of it is held in New York by the Federal Reserve, and they have a large gold vault there that they hold, gold for private investors. But yes, most people don't get the gold because it's too easy to steal, first of all, and you can't trace it.
Yeah.
If it's melted down or anything like that.
One gold coin looks just like another.
Right.
Doesn't the Federal Reserve Bank of New York also hold gold reserves for countries?
Yes. They hold a considerable amount of the gold reserve for the rest of the world. About 25% of the world's gold reserves are held in the vaults of the Federal Reserve in New York. So, and about 55% of all gold reserves are held on U.S. soil. That includes the United States and foreign countries.
Now, I thought I read somewhere that there are still a few countries that base their economy on gold, like we used to. We were a gold-based economy until World War I and Woodrow Wilson, I think, in that administration. But I know of all countries, and this was listed in the article, Saudi Arabia, which you would expect would base their currency on oil,
right,
bases it on gold.
Right, and I don't know of many others.
China does too.
China, because China holds a considerable amount of gold reserves as well. China also protects their currency very closely. You can't take it outside of the country. So
I see they're looking at changing that, though. It was in the news just yesterday. All right, let's go to the phones. Good morning. You're on in the Morning Zone with Jim Yates and Ann Lucas from First Education Federal Credit.
Yeah, okay, this is Paul.
Hi, Paul.
Curiosity. If I could afford to buy gold, and I bought, say, $100,000 worth, I'm going to get a piece of paper that says I own $100,000 worth of gold at this price. It's advertised as being something as a hedge against the economy collapsing. If the economy collapses, how do I get my gold?
Exactly.
What a good question.
Yeah, that's
and I'll hang up and take this.
All right, thanks a lot. Good question.
Right. If you're holding gold for the catastrophe, then you should have the real gold. You shouldn't have a certificate. Because, like you said, you will get a certificate that says you have X amount of weight of gold in some vault. And unless that vault is right next door to you and the economy collapses, it's not worth any more than the paper money is.
Good morning. You're on with our Ask a Local Expert team, Jim Yates and Ann Lucas from First Education Federal Credit Union.
Hey, this is Barry.
Hi, Barry.
I thought I'd weigh my 2 cents in. I guess the way I look at it this way, if you don't take delivery, you really don't own it then.
Well, I guess that, that's kind of true. That's also true if you're in the cattle futures or any of the futures type markets, isn't it, folks?
Oh, certainly. There are lots of investments that you don't really take possession of. Yeah. In fact, most stocks now you don't take physical possession of.
You're hedging your bet, as they say in Vegas.
You don't even get a piece of paper a lot of times.
No, it's electronic now, so it's just like any other investment.
That's true.
Well, thank you very much.
You bet, Barry. Thanks for your call. And we remember that so much of our country in the early years was based on gold and the gold rush, and even part of Wyoming and South Dakota wouldn't exist today if it weren't for the gold rush. It's I think a part of the history of most great civilizations. I mean, we see these beautiful gold masks, Egyptian artifacts and Roman artifacts. So it has had a very important meaning throughout history in nearly every civilization.
And a good number of the very important buildings in Denver were built by gold, including the cathedral. That was money from people that made it rich in the gold mining.
Now, let's get down to brass tacks of gold today as an investment. I've had some experts say, it's good to have it as part of your portfolio. I've had others say that, you should make it a major part of your portfolio in this economy today. And then others say, stay away from the gold. Somewhere in the middle lies the truth.
Right, and it wouldn't be a bad idea to have a little bit in your portfolio. But again, it's very emotional. The value changes greatly based on world events. So I certainly wouldn't think it would be in a major portion of your portfolio.
So I'm not going to just cash in everything and buy gold with everything I've got.
No, especially not right now.
Yeah.
If it goes back to $200 an ounce, you might.
Gold, as you say, is an emotional investment. Gold always has value.
Mm-hmm.
Whether the value is high or low, it always has value, and it probably always will. And we've seen businesses come and go. Other investment types, may be worthless in the future. I remember when my father-in-law owned a whole bunch of United stock and United filed for bankruptcy.
Yeah, that's
Right.
true. You're on the air in the Morning Zone with our First Education Federal Credit Union folks, Jim Yates and Ann Lucas.
Yes. Talking precious metals and so on, how would an individual and how would the credit union handle the actual silver and gold coins if an individual came in and insisted on getting their money in silver or gold? I'll go ahead and hang up and listen then. Thank you.
Interesting question.
We simply wouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
The credit union, we only have access to Federal Reserve notes and coins, and currently none of them are gold or silver. So if someone wanted that, they would have to go to a dealer to have that happen.
And no financial institution in the United States deals in the precious metal itself. We're not on that standard. We deal in currency, fiat currency.
And that changes so much. I mean, I can remember when silver dollars
Oh, yeah.
were common.
Oh, yeah.
I even remember seeing a few $20 gold pieces out there. And it seems like, and I was thinking while we were talking, when I went to school, and I graduated in 1968, I think the standard for gold, the price that the government had set, was like $32 an ounce. Does that sound about right?
Wow.
That's about right. It was actually set in 1933, and it remained in effect until the 70s when Richard Nixon took us off of the gold standard.
Yeah, and that's when it began to be such a precious futures trade.
Right, and then prior to that, it was not legal for U.S. citizens to own gold bullion, or even an excessive amount of gold coins.
Good morning, you're on the air in the Morning Zone with our Ask a Local experts, Jim Yates and Ann Lucas from First Education Federal Credit.
Yes, good morning. I have a question. My husband went down to our credit union and he wanted to take out about $5,000 to buy gold at one time, and they wouldn't let him take out that much. The maximum I think he could take out was $3,000, and I mean we had like $20,000 or $30,000 into our savings and stuff. What is the policy on the amount of actual cash that a person can take out of the credit union at one time? And I'll hang up and listen.
All right, thanks for your call.
There is no legal policy. That varies from institution to institution. I suspect that what happened is it was a logistical issue, is we try to anticipate how much cash we'll need this week, and some days, we may be a little lower on it and not able to accommodate members' request for a large sum of cash. Most folks don't deal in that much cash anymore, so we don't anticipate a very large withdrawal. I would suggest in the future, caller, if you can anticipate that withdrawal, call your credit union. They'll be happy to order it for you, and make sure we just need a couple days' notice usually.
Yeah, I guess we don't think about it, but yeah, banks have to order money.
Yeah, we do. And
It's not like you keep it somewhere and, under the bank building or somewhere.
yeah, we try not to keep more than a certain amount in the building.
Sure.
And, it's a logistics thing. How many 20s are we going to need? Hundreds, so on and so on.
Mm-hmm. And that was an interesting question because I had never considered that.
And some places have stricter limits, depends, and sometimes it's a safety issue where a financial institution will determine, well, we don't want our customers to be unsafe
Yes.
by carrying that much cash.
Well, listen, we appreciate you folks coming in and being on with us. We've already gone through our time.
It's crazy.
It has zipped right by. Let's go ahead and take one more call before you go. Good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, good morning. Before you guys take a hike, the computers, you hit on it just a minute ago. I'm trying to get my thoughts back together. The computers are going to be computered money. You know that. We know that. Gold will be worthless. As you read it in the book of Revelation in the Bible, this is going to take place. They're going to throw their gold and silver, precious metals. That's why this debt of 16 trillion, 80 trillion, however you want to look at it, it's all on computer. It is not money, wheelbarrows of gold, and it's crazy. We have to deal with it.
But it's true.
You guys are doing an awesome job at, educational, federal, whoever.
Federal Credit Union. Yes, let's get.
They've got to deal with this changeover.
Yeah.
It's coming, and the rest of us have to go.
Yeah.
You know what? All I want was a hamburger with no onion.
There you go.
Right.
Thanks for your
Bye.
call.
Have a
We
beautiful
appreciate
day.
it.
Bye,
Thank
Ron.
you.
Yeah, and there's a lot of gold in a computer these days too.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of
Right.
recycling going on.
Yes.
So he's right.
Right. Very valuable.
Now, folks want to find out more about some of the services that you offer at First Education Federal Credit Union. Your phone number and address, and not only that, but
Here's
your
all
email.
of it. We don't deal in gold at the credit union,
No.
but yeah. We're at 120 West Carlson Street, right next to the McDonald's by Albertsons on Yellowstone and Carlson. Phone number 432-7400, and you can get us on the World Wide Web at firstedfcu.com.
All right, very well. And Lucas, Jim Yates, thank you for coming
Thank
in
you.
and weathering the cold.
Yes.
A pleasure.
Drive safely.
Thank you, Dave.
All right, we're into our open line time. Your chance to weigh in and be our guest to talk about the weather or anything else that might be on your mind this morning, simply by picking up the phone and giving us a ring. 1-888-503-6500 is toll-free wherever you're listening. You listen on the far reaches of our AM 650 KGAB radio signal around the Rocky Mountain West or worldwide on the internet at KGAB.com or on that app for Android or iPhone, Radio Pup, that you can download free at KGAB.com, compliments of Union Wireless. Or locally, you could call us at 307-632-6500 or 632-3323. Good morning, you're in the Morning Zone. Good morning, you're on in the Morning Zone. Hello? Are you there?
Good morning, Dave.
Oh, there you are. I can hear you just fine, but you couldn't hear me.
Hello?
Hello, hello, hello.
Hello.
Hello there.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, well, I didn't do a thing. I just kept saying hello until you finally said hello back.
Well, I kept saying hello until you said hello.
Well, hello, Ron. How are you?
Good. Tell the engineer he might have some dirty contacts on the switch.
No,
I need
something.
to spray them. Anyway, now what I was calling about, I really enjoyed your segment with Chris Murkowski earlier on kids and expectations and things like that.
Yes.
I wish he could get that onto Bill O'Reilly and Charlie Rose and
Yeah.
a few other shows because, man, he was right on the money with a lot of these things.
He really was. Of course.
You know, there's certainly no reason, no logical reason for a parent to hang their head or be ashamed or disappointed or whatever if their son or daughter is a good nurse or a good carpenter or a good plumber or any of a million other honorable things, you know, a good policeman, a good soldier, you name it. But it seems today we've got almost an entire generation of parents that believe that, my little Johnny is certainly not going to throw his life away being a preacher or a priest or a policeman or soldier or a carpenter, He needs to sit in the Senate, or even better yet in the White House, because little Johnny is really special. And, if my little Johnny stuck a knife in your little Susie, well, your little Susie had it coming because she disrespected little Johnny. And, when they teach these kids that, what are kids going to do? They're going to grow up the way their parents raised them.
Yes.
And if their parents have this attitude, maybe not all, but certainly a significant percentage of them are going to grow up with this attitude. And my dad used to tell me something when I was a little kid. I think he was a pretty wise man when he said, I would rather have you be the best ditch digger in town than to have you be the worst lawyer in town.
Exactly.
And I think we have to bring a lot of this stuff that we're blaming our young people for. We have to blame the people who made them what they are, their parents. And by golly, when little Johnny comes up to you and says, Mom, I don't want to go to Harvard. I want to go into the Army. We'll say, more power to you, son. Why don't you take the test and see if you can't get into West Point? And if you can't, then enlist.
Mm-hmm.
There's certainly nothing wrong with retiring at 45-year-old as a first sergeant.
That's true.
But a lot of parents say, oh, my God, go into the Army. Why would you want to throw your life away? Or go to the seminary and be a priest? My God, I'd just as soon have you be a gangster. You're just throwing away all the opportunity we've given you. Well, no, you're not. But anyway, that was the only thing I wanted to add. I think other than that, Chris Markowski and you covered it very, very well.
Well, thanks, Ron. I appreciate you listening.
Thank you.
You have a great day. All right, 1-888-503-6500, 307-632-6500, or 632-3323, whatever is on your mind this morning. Oh, here's a good one, and it could be coming our way. Started out Fort Worth, Texas. Police chief down there has apologized for an operation that pulled over drivers to the side of the road and asked them for breath, blood, and saliva samples for a federal research project on driving while impaired. But the $7.9 million project, headed by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, is far from over, with similar police stops slated next year at about 300 sites in 60 cities and around the nation. The latest phase of the operation, staged in late November as part of the NHTSA's National Roadside Survey of Alcohol and Drug Driving, included uniformed off-duty Fort Worth police officers directing motorists into an area where they were met by technicians in lab coats who asked them to blow into a machine to test their blood alcohol levels or to provide either blood or saliva samples. Some drivers said that they felt intimidated and pressured to participate. Under fire, Police Chief Jeffrey Halstead issued an apology saying, I agree with our citizens' concerns and I apologize for our participation. Any future federal survey of this nature, which jeopardizes the public trust, will not be approved for the use of the Fort Worth Police. That according to a statement made to the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. The American Civil Liberties Union of Texas said the searches are among the most invasive police can conduct. We're glad that the police chief recognizes these supposedly voluntary searches should never have happened, Terry Burke, executive director of the ACLU, told Newsmax. The people have the right to expect the police won't randomly stop people who aren't suspect of any wrongdoing and demand blood or saliva samples. Good morning. You're on KGAB's Morning Zone.
Hey, Dave, this is Barry. Sorry.
Hello there.
Sorry for calling a second time, but, with this saliva testing and that, Dave, I'm really concerned about it. I know that Danny Glick is really for us, and I'd like to find out, what is his views on this, and also the police chief, because, Dave, I just don't think it's right. All this stuff is going against our Constitution.
Now, whether Wyoming or Cheyenne or Laramie County are included among the 300 sites around the nation for use of this little survey, I don't know. It didn't list all of the sites.
Yeah, Glenn Beck was on a couple of days ago, and he was mentioning, he said, I used to trust the police. But he says, now I know the Constitution, and I tell my kids to know the Constitution and ask questions. No longer can you distrust them anymore, Dave.
Well, that's true. I mean, and that's sad. Mm-hmm. Because we used to teach our children to respect the boys in blue, and if you ever had a trouble, if you ever had a problem, don't ever hesitate to go talk to a police officer.
Yeah, and I guess we need police that are not in a power trip, but are willing to serve like they're supposed to, just like Andy Griffin, Dave.
Mm-hmm. So. Well, and I think, my experience with both Chief Kozak and Sheriff Glick are that they and their departments are of that ilk.
Yeah.
To serve. But in terms of the State Patrol or the Wyoming Department of Investigation or any of those, I really don't know.
Well, I do want a sheriff that will say to the Highway Patrol and that if you guys try to do this in this county, you cannot do it on my watch.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my 2 cents.
All right. Well, that's good 2 cents, Barry. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. You're on the air in the Morning Zone.
Hey, good morning, Dave. How are you?
Hey, Jim, how are you? This is the question.
Oh, good. We're sliding around in the global warming here.
You are. I noticed even last night a lot of folks having a little trouble getting around, especially on I-70.
Yeah, it's coming down right now. They say it's going to get too cold to snow, but we'll see about that.
I used to believe that until back about 1984, 85, when I actually lived down in your country in Thornton. We had a Christmas Eve blizzard, and it snowed about 3 feet sideways for 2 days, and it was below zero, way below zero both days, and I decided then this idea of it ever being too cold to snow is an old wives' tale.
What a bunch of bunk, huh? Yeah, I was there for that one. That one was maybe rivaled only by the one, I think it was like 2002 when we got 4 feet of snow in March.
Yeah, that was incredible too. Mm.
Yeah, but anyway, I just wanted to say great comments by Barry, and I agree. But we got to look at what starts this mistrust, and also what stopped it, Dave. Now, what stopped it in Dallas-Fort Worth is people standing up and saying no.
Mm-hmm.
And we gotta look at what we're doing when we allow things like DUI checkpoints, which is really the exact same thing.
Yes.
We have the police setting up and pulling people over with no probable cause, and we've accepted that for a long time. We've got to also look at a federal level at agencies like the Department of Homeland Security and TSA, and we allow that as well. But the example is right there. When people said, no, we're not going to take this, they backed down.
Well, again, the power of the people. And it takes folks to have some intestinal fortitude to stand up to authority and say, no, nuts. We're not going to do it.
It reminds me of taking care of my kids, Dave. I realize that you got to keep them on a short leash.
Yeah. That's true.
They'll roll right over you, so it has to do with what we accept,
That's right. We get the government we deserve,
There you go. Thanks a lot, Dave.
Hey, thank you, Jim, for listening, and drive safely down there.
Thank you, sir. Stay warm.
1-888-503-6500, 307-632-6500, or 632-3323. We'll get you on the air with us. Got a minute before we have to go to break. You're on the air. Good morning.
Dave, just a little bit of correction here.
Okay.
The courts have ruled, number one, that operating a motor vehicle on a public street, road, or highway is a privilege granted by the state.
Yes, that's
It's
right.
not a
I've
constitutional
forgotten about
right.
that. Mm-hmm.
Secondly, they've ruled that you can't discriminate,
Mm-hmm.
but you can have a DUI checkpoint as long as you pull over everyone.
Everybody that goes through it.
Right. You can't pull over just a few. You can't pull over every third car. You can't pull over every car over 10 years old, whatever. You've got to pull over everybody.
All right, Ron, thanks for your
Thank you.
correction. We appreciate that. And good morning. You're on In the Morning Zone.
Well, I guess the third time's the charm.
There you go.
Hey, how about that? Well, I just thought I'd remind everyone that according to the Janet Napolitano and the Homeland Security, people who believe in the Constitution, returning veterans are terrorists. And if you're in the military, you better not donate or give any kudos or any support to any kind of Christian or evangelical or religious group, or you better not be supporting a Tea Party candidate or anything like that, because you'll be court-martialed. And I'd just like to let the troops know that this is the freedom they're fighting for.
Well, I'm not sure that they have yet made it so that they can tell you who you can and cannot vote for. I have not seen anything that says that's been made legal. I don't believe they can do that just yet. I think you still have the right to vote your conscience.
Well, I mean, at the ballot box, but to make any donations or during the government shutdown, Catholic priests were not allowed to hold services or say mass on base. I believe that was on Glenn Beck.
Well, the federal government didn't even pay their wages, so why did they shut them down?
Yeah. Well, anyway, so
do you ever just wonder the mentality of some of the people we have running our government? It's a little scary to think about.
Well, look, the people running our government basically are offshore banks. Okay, so I mean, and you got people. This is the same crowd that has financed the eugenics movement and Planned Parenthood and all these other wonderful organizations. I mean, their basic modus operandi, their basic computation is, if you can't kill people, so that if they can't kill people so that they can be safe, they better enslave those who produce so that they can be safe.
I see.
Okay, we are run by parasites. So
only because we let ourselves be.
Yeah, you're right. Anyway,
Skits.
In spite of that, life is still going to be good.
It's going to be cold, though. Stay warm. Okay? All right, 1-888-503-6500, 307-632-6500, or 632-3323. Just got this in my email, and it is a press release from Senator Enzi's office, and it says, building on his campaign coalition that includes more than 400 Wyoming citizens, U.S. Senator Mike Enzi announced the initial members of his finance committee today. Serving the people of Wyoming is a privilege that I have always been proud to earn, county by county, town by town, door by door, Enzi said. Fundraising will be an important part of reaching Wyoming citizens directly, and I'm honored to have such an esteemed group of friends aiding my campaign efforts. The Finance Committee will play a key role in fundraising for Enzi's campaign for re-election to the U.S. Senate in 2014. The committee will focus on fundraising and building support with coalitions across Wyoming. Deemer True will serve as chair of the committee. Other members include, aside from Deemer, Eli Bebout from Riverton, Dave Bell from Pinedale, Ed Sharami from Jackson, Tony Ross from Cheyenne, Josh Sorensen from Rock Springs, and Rob Wallace from Teton Village. That's his campaign finance committee for Senator Enzi. Good morning. You're on KGAB's Morning Zone.
Good morning, Dave. How are you?
Hi, Barbie.
Hey, this next Monday, it's coming up where the city council is going to vote on the political signs.
Yes.
And how many we can have and the size and blah, blah, blah. And, I'd encourage people to go. It's really hard for me to encourage people to speak because they're usually treated rudely, but I would encourage people to go and listen to why the members of our city council and which ones, including the mayor, don't believe we deserve our First Amendment right. I think that's more an issue than all of us standing up there, and being, treated like idiots or crazy. But I'm real curious to why they think we don't deserve our First Amendment right.
Interesting question.
Yeah, it just kind of flips the thing. Usually we encourage people all the time, you need to go there and talk, and you need to fight for your First Amendment rights. I would encourage people to go.
I would surmise that the overall attitude has always seemed to have been, not everyone on the council,
that's
but
what I'm saying.
a few, that my mind is made up. Don't confuse me with facts. I don't want to hear them.
Yeah. So I think the fact to go and seek and find, look at that council, look at your mayor. Do they believe in the Constitution, and are they going to uphold your rights? I would think that would be much more interesting than to have a bunch of people have the courage to come forward, be treated rudely, and then never go back. Go with a learning curve. Go and watch these people, how they interact with each other, how they treat each other, and
treat them with respect.
Yeah,
and if you don't get respect in return, look them right in the eye, the one that's being disrespectful, and say, you know what? If I spoke to my boss the way you're speaking to me, you'd be fired.
Yeah, you'd be fired. Yeah, but Dave, I just think it would be an interesting thing to turn it around. We're always begging people to go to a meeting and stand up for what you believe in. I'm telling people, go to this meeting and really look at who you voted in, and let them explain to you why you're not entitled to your First Amendment.
I hear you.
So you have a great day, and I hope everybody shows up and finds out who we voted for.
All right, stay warm here.
All right, you too, Dave. Bye-bye.
Good morning. You're on KGAB's Morning Zone.
Good morning, Dave. How are you?
We're doing good. How about yourself?
Good. I'd like to ask you a question and then express an opinion, if that'd be okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
You've said it several times in your show before. How do you define insanity?
Well, that is simple. If you continue to do the same thing over and over again and expect different results, that's the definition of insanity. That was given a long time ago.
I'd like to remind people that when they decide to vote for or against Mr. Envy, I'd like to thank you for 18 years of service, but under his 18-year watch, our deficit has gone up. We've lost the majority we gave him. And the best campaign commercial he can come up with is if he tried to fight Obamacare and help Wyomings not lose their health care, and he failed. So maybe it's time to give somebody else a chance. I'm not a Liz Cheney supporter. I don't know anything about her. I just know that Mr. Envy has a record of not being successful in everything he's tried. So maybe it's time to try somebody different. Mr. Envy's been there 18 years, and the best commercial he can come up with is Wyoming citizens are losing their health care, and he fought against it. Well, it didn't work.
No.
If I had a carpenter for 18 years and my house was falling in and my roof was caving in, I'd get a new carpenter.
Of course, in fairness, not only Wyoming residents, but U.S. citizens all across this country are losing their health care. And we can't blame all of that on Mike Enzi. We have to blame that on the entire Congress of the United States of America and the President.
I can't control what Harry Reid does. I can't control what other senators and congressmen do. I can only control my own state. I can't control what John McCain does or what the citizens of Arizona do or the citizens of Colorado do or the citizens of Nebraska do. I have a vote in Wyoming. I can only control who I send back to Washington. And after 18 years, the Republican Party and the nation in general is in worse shape than it was when Mr. Enzi took office.
Well, and I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying that, one man does not the Senate make. And his vote, had he been, had he voted
and Mr. Envy. That's the only one we have a say-so on.
Yeah. Had he voted the opposite way that you had wanted him to vote, would it made a difference in how what the final result would have been? I don't know. I can't.
He has voted several times to raise the debt ceiling.
Yeah. Well, I would definitely try to find out more about his opponent if you're concerned about that, and see if she is someone that shares your thoughts on the issues. We'll have her back on many times, I'm sure, as well as Senator Enzi.
Maybe it's time for a change.
Not a bad idea. Thank you for your call. We appreciate it. 1-888 503-6500, 307-632-6500, or 632-3323. Love to have you call in and be our guest. We would love to know what's on your mind this morning and see just exactly what it is that you are thinking about. Are you concerned about Obamacare as your number one issue, or something else on your mind this morning? We've got still time to do it before we run out of day. 9:53, 0 outside, and back to the phones we go. You're on the air. Good morning.
Good morning. You know what I love about talk radio? It's not just being able to intermix. At my age, I don't really want to go outside. I don't want to go back to work, so I'm not going to. But I get to listen to people connect the dots. And eventually you're going to get a picture of what really truly is happening, just like Guy Stockton on there from LCCC. Those two buildings, that bond issue, all of a sudden emergency bond issue came up. He made the statement, had we not got this thing going, those funds, matching funds from the state, would have been given to another community college.
Right.
And I thought, oh my goodness, so we really didn't need these buildings. It's just every other department of the government is, you have a budget, spend it or lose it. Basically, use it or lose it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what happened. And I'm like, oh my goodness. Not that I wanted those funds matched to go to another community college, but it's just when you hire the Lisa, she was a hired propagandist. One of your callers mentioned that, and I go, there's another dot. I'll connect those dots. Pretty soon you get a picture that government is like the kudzu vine syndrome. It's growing and growing and growing, and we're watching this take place, and I just got to say, man, I'm glad I don't like onions on my hamburgers. I want to keep it so simple, but it's just not going to be that way anymore.
Well, if I got to spend my money, I'd just as soon spend it on education, because I've got a young daughter that'll be using that facility soon. So.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. It's just how they go about it. It's like, you sneaky little rascals, you. And so it's like so irritating, yet in the end you go, oh, man, I'd rather spend it on you than spend it on Houston, Texas.
That's true.
See you, Dave.
Take care. And speaking of higher education, and correlating this to Obamacare, hours after University of Notre Dame filed a religious challenge to the U.S. healthcare overhaul in Indiana federal court, a judge in Washington heard arguments in a lawsuit assailing tax provisions of the statute. The cases underscore the persistent and diverse nature of legal attacks on the Affordable Care and Patient Protection Act, Obamacare, even as the Obama administration struggles to fix bugs in Obamacare.gov, the online marketplace for health insurance created by the measure. Obamacare litigation continues, partly because questions about its legitimacy as a piece of partisan politician legislation are unresolved. That are the words of Ilya Shapiro, who is a senior fellow in constitutional studies at the Libertarian Cato Institute in Washington, and an opponent of the act. The statute passed Congress without Republican support in either the House or the Senate. It doesn't matter what motives the plaintiffs bring, those challenges, as long as their legal arguments are sound, because Well, that's what courts are looking at, he said. The lawsuit in Washington, in which a federal judge yesterday heard arguments for an immediate verdict, was brought by 7 individuals and businesses from 6 different states. At least 3 similar complaints have been filed in Oklahoma, Virginia, and Indiana. All challenge some of the federal government's authority to offer tax credits to subsidize health insurance for poor people under Obamacare. And the complaint Notre Dame filed yesterday, allegedly saying that the laws requiring health care plan cover birth control violates Roman Catholic teaching, is a refiling of a lawsuit dismissed in December on procedural grounds. Now, the Notre Dame case is among 86 lawsuits attacking Obamacare on religious grounds, according to Aaron Marisno, who is trial counsel at the Thomas More Law Center of Ann Arbor, Michigan, Christian-based public interest law firm. 41 of the cases involve primary Catholic nonprofit groups like Notre Dame and take issue with birth control mandate. Marisno said that the other 46 were brought by for-profit entities whose owners argue that the contraception provision violates their religious freedom. So we'll see how all that shakes out in the weeks to come. I want to thank everybody for listening. I want to thank our special guests before we run out of day. Chris Markowski, our watchdog on Wall Street in the 707 segment. Ernie Goss in the Mountain States Economic Report at 7:37. And Lucas and Jim Yates from Cheyenne Federal Credit Union, Cheyenne Education Federal Credit Union, in with us. And they were talking about investing with gold. And in the 9 o'clock hour, Ann Norwood, the chairwoman for Christmas House, on with us. We'll be back again tomorrow to do this crazy thing all over again, and it'll be colder than it is right now, so stick close to your warm radio. Rush Limbaugh comes up next. If you're out driving or going to be, please give yourself some extra time and drive safely.